Nobel Peace Prize recipient President Obama is calling for military action in Syria. This is the same former senator who spoke out against the war in Iraq. Now, Obama is pursuing military intervention in the sovereign country that borders Iraq.
I do think that we have to act. Because if we don't, we are effectively saying that even though we may condemn it and issue resolutions and so forth and so on, somebody who is not shamed by resolutions can continue to act with impunity.
Ring a bell? President George W. Bush went to the UN Security Council to coalesce the international community to invade Iraq at the assumption they had weapons of mass destruction. We now know there were no weapons of mass destruction. Today, Obama is calling on the global allies to intervene in Syria because of the alleged use of chemical weapons by Syrian President Bashar Assad. And Obama's calls are so very similar to his predecessor, whom he heavily criticized and was awarded the Peace Prize.
The Iraqi regime possesses biological and chemical weapons.
Today, we've released our unclassified assessment detailing with high confidence that the Syrian regime carried out a chemical weapons attack.
States like these and their terrorist allies constitute an axis of evil, arming to threaten the peace of the world.
This kind of attack threatens our national security interests by violating well-established international norms.
Their military approach in the Middle East is in lockstep. And again, we can hear Presidents Obama and Bush using the same tactics to win over the public, using language that would pull on the coldest person's heart to trigger an emotional response and moral obligation to capitulate and to their support of military efforts.
This is a regime that has already used poison gas to murder thousands of its own citizens.
A government chose to deploy these deadly weapons on civilian populations,
leaving the bodies of mothers huddled over their dead children.
When those videos first broke and you saw images of over 400 children subjected to gas,
Obama's efforts to gain international support have not been as successful as President Bush, however. Only 9% of Americans surveyed by Reuters think President Obama should intervene in Syria's civil war. Today, military intervention is harder to sell because the public is not behind it. And maybe that's because they've heard the same story before. In Washington, I'm Perry Ann Boring, RT.